What's up, everybody? Happy National Farmers Market Week. We said we'd be going live at 2. We are 1 minute early, just in case. We'll talk a little bit about our farmers, the farmers market, my involvement, blah, blah, blah. I'm the first one of a short series that we're going to do with different vendors. I think it's super great. I love the Coppell Farmers Market, obviously because I live in Coppell, but also the market, as most farmers markets, has so much to offer all year round. It is a year-round market. I get that question all the time. They ask me, hey, when does the market end? And I say, it doesn't. We go every month throughout the entire year. We're there for you guys. I mean, we make some money selling some products, but really it's a community thing that we're all very honored to be a part of. So please come out and support us. Come meet your farmers, come meet your dairymen, come meet your artisans, come meet your crafters. We love seeing the same faces every weekend. We love being a small part of your life, so keep doing that. Farmers markets, super important. Big deal in the community, especially with COVID going around right now. It's nice to know where's your food coming from. It's nice to know the person who's crafting it, who's taking care of it, who's getting it from them to you. One of the more beautiful things about the Coppell Farmers Market versus some other markets that I've been a part of in the past is that in Coppell, it's almost all the exact person doing it. When you go to Joe the Baker, you're talking to Joe the Baker. When you go to Wackham's Cookies, you are talking to Paul Wackham. When you go to the farmers, you are almost always talking directly to the person who makes the decisions, who cares for the product. It's really great. I love that so much. You're talking to all of us. We're part of it. We're invested in the market, so keep doing that. The city is invested in it. They help us. We had to change so much in the COVID reaction, but we're out there. We're doing it. We've hit our stride. So come on out. Don't be scared. Everything is responsibly distanced. Really well taken care of. The weather's actually been super great lately. Like for August, these temperatures are pretty awesome, so come on out. Before we get started today, we have 3 super great vendors who shared their product with me so that I could showcase it in our no churn ice cream, or what you could call Semifreddo if you want to, whatever. We will start in order of how they're used so that nobody thinks I'm playing favorites. We will start with our Jersey Girls Dairy. They've been in the market for a couple years now. All of their stuff is obviously local. It is all grass-fed. They make milk and yogurt. I'm going to read from the thing here just so I get it all right. It is non-homogenized, pasteurized at a very low temperature. That way the dairy products are all made on the farm. They're super beautiful. They're high quality and very nutrient dense. They have 3 generations of family working together on this. They do all of the haying, the animal care, the milking, the product making, milk bottling, delivery, and obviously the farmers markets. Recently, the Jersey Girls just launched an online store. That way you can pre-order product and pick it up at the markets, which is super great. I know that I've personally benefited from that. They said that the link will be in the description below this video. And of course, you should like the Jersey Girls Dairy anyway, right? Super perfect. I love their products. And honestly, just really down-to-earth, great people to work with, as I'm going to say for all of them in the market, right? Next up, we are going to talk about Weathertop Farms. I got some lovely, proper eggs from them. As a professional pastry chef, I go through an insane amount of eggs. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that they're all from a farmer. Like, I'm sure they come from a farm of some sort. But by and large, they're kind of commercial produced. But when I can get real eggs that are all different sizes and colors and weights and everything like that, it's super great. So Weathertop Farm is a farm located near the Red River, and the owner, Chris, works really hard and makes sure that everything is super well made, cultivated, and cared for. They work with vegetables, meats, and eggs with him and his entire family. And one of the beautiful things about the farmers market, again, this guy doesn't even have a website. He doesn't really do email or anything. The only place you can find him is the Coppell Farmers Market. Like, that's how much he loves it. That's where you get the great product. You meet the guy who does it, you shake his hand, you buy it. It's perfect, right? Finally, we have Flo Mo Elderberry Company. Thank goodness for that. I love elderberry so much. I'm not going to lie, I like it in cocktails. But we're going to use it more in a sweet application today. They are made in Flower Mound, obviously. We have the slow, small batch brew of our elderberry using whole organic herbs and berries, all sourced within the United States as locally as possible. And their honey is cold poured so that they maintain the full integrity of all of their products from beginning to end. They do not use stabilizers, binders, or preservatives. And today, I thought it would be fun if we use the orange clove variety. Something super great. I love extra spices and things. Of course, they have several varieties to choose from. They're at the market several times a month. They're usually right in the middle of the field. You can't miss them. I'm off in the corner. I kind of have my own thing going on, but that's fine. So, 3 great vendors from the farmers market. I'm a 4th vendor. Hopefully that you guys know all of us by name. We could recognize your faces when you come by. If not, fix it. We'll see you Saturday. All right, so let's talk about no churn ice cream or semi-froyo. This is a recipe that I've kind of stolen and adapted from a fellow pastry chef that I know, where she does a riff on Klondike bars. And it's super, super nice because if you've ever had ice cream in Texas and you're not real close to the freezer, there's a good chance that it's going to melt and kind of make a mess. This will give you a beautiful, frozen, creamy, delicious consistency, but as it starts to heat up, it won't melt and go all over the place, which is actually really, really nice. The way we're going to do it today is we're going to incorporate these farmers market ingredients, but of course, this is just kind of a platform that you could add whatever you want. If you followed me personally, or seen any of the work that I've done, I try to use very simple kind of recipes or concepts that I can bend around whatever I'm handed in the moment so that I can make it tailored to what I'm doing. So, we will use the eggs from Weathertop, we will use the elderberry syrup to cook those eggs, and then we will finish that with the dairy from Jersey Girls. Okay? So in my bowl, I have 3 ounces of egg whites. I have separated these eggs. They do not have to be separated if you want a more rich and creamy dessert, but because I want to make sure I get the most volume for a video, because I don't want to be embarrassed and fall short, I'm going to use the egg whites. If you use the whole egg, you will get less overall volume, but you will have a tastier product. So it's kind of a, which one do you prefer? In the pot here, I have 3 ounces of sugar, and I have 1.5 ounces of the elderberry syrup. This could, of course, be much more syrup if you wanted to. We're going to cook it until it gets to a certain sugar concentration. So the more liquid you have, the longer it will cook, but it will also become more concentrated in flavor. So you can use the elderberry syrup, and we have sugar. We will go ahead and get that going, and we're going to cook that to what is considered the softball stage, or 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, when we get close, I'll start whipping this because it's a little loud. But the idea here, this is what is considered an Italian meringue. Those of you who watch cooking shows and you hear pastry chefs or whatever wax poetically about Italian meringue buttercream, it is made from the base of Italian meringue. And they always act like it's kind of this really big deal, and honestly, as a professional, that's kind of the baseline for us, is where it should be, is an Italian meringue. So what we're going to do, it sounds very scary, we're going to cook this, again, to 240 degrees Fahrenheit. While these are whipping, we are going to pour it in there. As long as we're careful and we don't pour it into the whisk, there's absolutely nothing to worry about. But it's really, really nice because these are fresh eggs. I'm honestly not so worried about salmonella, but I have a legal obligation as a professional to be concerned about immunocompromised people, or someone who's pregnant, or children, or really just the general populace, giving them salmonella. So, by pouring 240 degree syrup over eggs that are whipping, it is guaranteed to cook them above the temperature that we cook 165 degrees Fahrenheit to kill salmonella. That way it is a fully cooked, stable meringue. Now, as a little sidebar, this is the meringue that I put on my pies at the holidays when I want those beautiful spiky pies that I can torch and they don't change shape a lot, they don't weep a lot. The Italian meringue is the place to be. Those of you who followed me for a while, or at least know who I am, the Italian meringue is often the base of my French macaroons as well. Super, super versatile product. It could use almost any liquid over here. Of course, today we're using the elderberry syrup and some sugar. It's got the clove and the orange. I can already smell it. It's super delicious. I really love kind of stronger flavors. It sets off the entire tone of the day. And you'll see with such a small recipe, it will cook fairly quickly, but we'll go even more quickly because we don't want to bore anybody, right? Now, in the bowl, I have 7 ounces of my Jersey Girls yogurt, and I have about 3 ounces of the milk. I'm just going to gently mix that together so it is fairly uniform. We're not super, super worried about it at this point. Again, if you wanted to sub out the yogurt for some reason, you could use heavy cream and whip that. You'll get even more volume out of it. Obviously, it is whipped, so the yogurt is going to be more dense and more delicious. If you were to use whipped cream, you'll get more of the product, but it won't have quite the same flavor. So already we're seeing options. We can use whole eggs instead of egg whites. Technically, you could use egg yolks, but it's kind of really advanced once we get there. But we can use whole eggs, we can switch out our dairy. If you wanted to go dairy-free, you can definitely use a full-fat coconut product that would also maintain that same rigidity when it's whipped, right? I'm talking the full-fat coconut, not the stuff that's like water. Okay, so we're almost there. We'll start whipping this. We'll take my thermometer out. Safety first. Now we need these to be about medium heat. They should look a little bit like shaving cream. You see it goes very, very quickly with the machine. If you have the little handheld thing, it's totally fine. If you are doing this by hand, it is definitely possible. It'll just take a little bit longer and you're going to get quite the workout. Alright, so while we're whipping, to be safe, I'll turn it down to kind of a medium-low speed, and I'll just stream the sugar right down the side of the bowl. As it incorporates into the egg whites, it'll start to cook them. They will start to balloon in shape. We can gently increase the speed. My fear here is not hurting the egg whites. It's actually splattering it on the whisk, which will send shards of hot sugar throughout the bowl. By doing that, I'm going to change the recipe because I'm not getting the sugar in the egg whites, and there's a very small chance that I'll splatter sugar on myself. It's very, very hot. It'll definitely burn you. It'll give you a nice scar. I have several all over myself. Sugar can be dangerous. Once it's all in, we'll crank it up. The recipe will tell you to whip it until it is thick, glossy. It goes very, very quickly. And the side of the bowl should feel cool to the touch, or at least room temperature. It's hard to get cool to the touch in Texas, but it's 240 degrees. Right now it's hot. In about a minute, it'll cool almost all the way down to room temperature, and that right there, standalone, is our Italian meringue flavored with elderberry, clove, and orange. This can be used for so many things. It can be the foundation of other recipes. You can pipe this onto parchment paper, put it in a very cool oven, 200 degrees Fahrenheit or so, and you can just dehydrate them, and you get those beautiful meringue cookies that you'll see at some Latin bakeries. You can make meringue sticks to put on your cakes. You can put them on your pies. Again, I use this for the spiky meringues on pies for service. Put it on there, torch it, it'll expand just barely, and then it'll go right back to its original shape. It's the most safe and most stable meringue. And because we've cooked the sugar ahead of time, there won't be any graininess when we go to eat it. It's very, very smooth, it is a liquid, so it'll be perfect to work with. My bowl is already nearly at room temp. And because I'm lazy, I'm going to use the whisk that we're using for this. Nice and easy. You see we have one full stable meringue. Don't be surprised if it looks a little textured. That's the individual albumin proteins being cooked in the product. That's a good sign for us. That means it's fully cooked. It's very, very shiny. I can hold it upside down forever. Nothing's going to happen. In the glass bowl, I can look and see where the sugar has incorporated, right? Because it's still a candy. So I've got a little candy streak all the way down the side. But again, what I don't see is little speckles throughout the bowl where it got not in the eggs, okay? So we take a spatula, we'll scrape this down into our dairy mixture. You could use the machine if you have one. I like to do it by hand just to make sure that I don't overwork it by chance. We'll set this aside. Again, I'm too lazy to wash a lot of dishes, so I'll take this and we'll gently just start working it in there. Now, while we're doing this, if you wanted to add a ribbon of reduced elderberry syrup, you definitely could. If you have some caramel or butterscotch or lemon curd or whatever, you can kind of streak that in there, and as you're folding, it will incorporate. Once we have it mostly mixed, we can also definitely add fruits, vegetables, nuts, chocolate chips, anything else, right? As long as we don't change the recipe, we can add little things to it to kind of enhance our recipe. So what we have here would very loosely be considered a mousse, right? It has some buoyancy, but it still falls off. And what will happen is, with the amount of dairy and sugar overall that we have, it will freeze into an ice cream in the freezer, and we don't have to churn it because we just added an aerated product. So I will switch over to my spatula, give it a quick fold just to make sure, and then I will mold it as needed. Now I'm going to assume not everybody has special silicone molds for everything in the world, like I do because I'm a pastry chef. You can totally put this on a sheet pan with some parchment. Don't use wax paper, don't use tin foil, use parchment. Make sure that if you do that, the parchment paper goes up and over the sides. That'll be really easy for you to pull it out later, and then you cut it and you can use it. But I'm going to take this, I'm going to deposit it into my shapes. Nice and easy. Give it a gentle tap just to make sure that it fully fills the cavity there. And here we have 4 little pucks. That way when they're done, it'll be nice and easy. We we can take the side of our spatula, flatten that off. That way it's perfect. Because what's the point of having a silicone mold if it's not perfectly shaped? And then any remainder you can continue to mold, or you can grab your trusty deli container. I can't remember what the stuff's called, Tupperware container, and we can freeze it just like that. You come through in the middle of the night, you've got a craving, shove your spoon in there, you've got a nice little spoon of Semifreddo or no churn ice cream. This goes into the freezer until it is fully frozen and firm. That'll probably take 2 to 3 hours depending on your freezer. Overnight is always best. So right now we're going to pull a little magic of TV. I'm going to set this in the freezer and then magically pull out one that's already frozen because I made it earlier. Again, you'll need a couple hours to get this all the way frozen. So we pull it out. Oh my goodness, it looks the exact same as the one I just made because it's silicone. Hopefully it'll release super easily. This is the magic of TV, and look at that. One beautiful hockey puck of ice cream, no churn, Semifreddo, from Farmers Market Ingredients. What can you do with this? You can eat it as is, because I told you it is a riff on a Klondike bar. If you have a candy coating, or what we call coating chocolate, which is a little different, you can dip that in those. You can throw it in a bowl and make a beautiful dessert on top of it. I obviously like to sandwich these between some pretty giant macaroons and sell them at the farmer's market. Pretty delicious with the yogurt, the cloves, the elderberry, the orange. It's a win-win-win, right? So we'll take a little taste because that's what you're supposed to do. All right? It's delicious. I get the yogurt, I get the cloves, I get the orange. It's creamy. It's really kind of luxurious. It's easy. These can freeze for 2 to 3 days uncovered. You can make these obviously well ahead of time. Wrap the entire thing 2 or 3 times in plastic wrap. It'll freeze for probably about a month. Between you and me, it could probably go like 3 months, but legally I shouldn't say that. And as long as it doesn't freezer burn, you're good to go. So, I am gonna say, this is delicious, it's super easy. Come to the farmer's market, add your fruits, add your nuts, add any syrups, add your sprouted grains if you want to while we're folding it before we put it in the vessel, and then you're good to go. Do we have any questions? No questions, perfect. Well, come see us at the farmer's market. We're always there, and I have kind of a little bonus here. You're hearing it here first. On August 18th at 9 p.m. Central, you'll see me battling it out in the hardest cooking competition I've done yet, which is the new chopped sweets. So tune into Food Network, August 18th, 9 p.m. I may or may not be on Facebook answering any questions. Obviously, I can't answer all of your questions about the show and stuff, but I'm not going to exaggerate. This was the hardest one. This is the 4th one I've done. It was hard. It's a lot harder than it looks. I have a lot more respect for people who go to Chopped and who do that. It's not easy. So that's our recipe. You can also find it on my website. Enjoy the farmers market. We thank you, City of Coppell, for your support. We thank all the farmers, the vendors, the artisans, the crafters, the makers. We love you, and hopefully we'll see you again. Thanks, guys.